Hospitals of the Season on His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavindi ki this confounded child of Srila Prabhupada ki Prem Sikaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Garadha Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki Sri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Sri Navadipa Dham ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Tulsi Devi ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to some of the devotees, all glories to some of the devotees, all glories to some of the devotees, all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga Nitai, Gaur Pimanandi Hari Hari. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pacharane Nivasesha Sunyavari Krishkate Sakarane Om Gyanataminandasya Vinajana Salakaya Chaksu Samiritanjena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manavistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Upakadamayam Dadati Sa Pandantikam Vanchakopatubhyascha Kripasindubhe Bacha Patitanam Prabhinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Hare Krishna. What is special about this room? Raise your hand. Yes. Okay, I didn't. Yes, it is. It's true. But also, kirtan sounds so nice here. Did you notice that? Well, it has something to do with the devotees too, but very nice. But I thought of something else. It has to do with our mission while we are here. The secret is on the wall. It is called the Ice Challenge. Because in the material world, our hearts become as cold and as hard as ice. But there is a cure. Of course, it's the heater. Because if there's a fight between the ice and the heater, we hope, because we're getting a little cold anyway, we hope that the heater will win. So in this analogy, the ice is like my hard heart, cold and hard, selfishly absorbed all day long. And the heater is like the pastimes of Krishna. So we should all pray that the glorious pastime of the prayers of Lord Brahma, they will melt the hard and cold ice-like heart. Because it can be done. These prayers are so potent. It's a fact. They're one of the most important prayers, sections of the Bhagavatam, even in the 10th canto, the pastime that occurs, that causes Brahma to offer these prayers is so wonderful. Also, we'll speak a little about that, because it's very difficult. We've all think of where you were 5 hours ago. We were all in different places. So many of us were in offices, and others were, well, we were doing whatever we were doing. And then 4 hours ago, which means 3:30 or so, then 2 hours ago, then a half hour ago, when the class actually began when everyone was already sitting here at 7 o'clock. We were doing different things, most of us, and not sitting here at 7 o'clock. And then now it is 7:30. So the difficult part, because we've all come from different places and doing different things, the difficult part is actually to be here. Because there's a tendency, of course, for the body to be here, but the mind not to be here. And what we want to do is bring our mind and body and our intelligence to one place. And that is here and hearing about Krishna. So this pastime of Brahma's prayers, it begins not exactly with Brahma, which his part comes in the middle of the 13th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which Sukadeva Goswami is reciting to Maharaj Parikshit just a day or a little bit more than a day perhaps before he's going to die, leave this world. And according to what fills one's consciousness at the time of the departure from this world, Sadatad Bhava Bharata, without fail, this is the rule, according to our consciousness at that time, we will go to a corresponding place. And Maharaj Parikshit was very clear about where he wanted to go and what he wanted his consciousness to be filled with. Sometimes we are not quite as clear, but he was clear. He wanted his consciousness to be filled with Krishna because he was a devotee of Krishna and Krishna had protected him. Even while he was in the womb of his mother Uttara, Krishna came and protected him. And he was always searching for that person who protected him. At that time, he was searching for that same person throughout his life. He was examining Parikshita. He was examining everyone he met. Is this the person who has protected me? Is this Krishna? Where is Krishna? This is actually the ideal of being a devotee, a life of sincerely searching for Krishna. And if that is the central point of our life, Krishna will be there. He will come in so many ways. And interestingly enough, that when Krishna did come to Maharaj Parikshit at this time, just 7 days before he was going to die, he came not as he had come previously in its form. He came in the form of Srila Sukadeva Goswami. But it was Krishna, Krishna's mercy. Krishna in the form of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Puranarko Dhanodita, arising like the sun, dissipating the darkness of ignorance. He came to Maharaj Parikshit and he began to speak the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, the smiling face of Krishna, the most intimate part of the Bhagavatam. And in this part of the Bhagavatam that we're going to be hearing, we'll start, because it's always a challenge knowing exactly where to begin. So where we're going to begin, in a very brief way, we're going to describe how Brahma came, and then what happened, and what caused him to recite these prayers. Or these prayers were actually a spontaneous opening of his heart. And his heart was melted and opened. Of course, he was the most exalted personality already. But yet, he had created a problem, and we'll hear about that. And the problem was due to some, of course it was Krishna's mercy, but it was due to some pride. This is generally the problem. There is some pride. In fact, one could call it arrogance. Otherwise, how could we be in the material world, turning our back on Krishna, wishing to set up a separate universe, practically speaking, in which we're the center? It does take some arrogance on our part. And the opposite of arrogance is humility. And the material world, by Krishna's arrangement, is set up to make us humble, whether we like it or not. And we don't like it. In case some of us have not noticed, it's not very tasty, the process of becoming humble. And in any case, there was a demon, and his name was Aghasura, and he succeeded in swallowing up Krishna and the cowherd boys. Interestingly enough, he was in Vrindavan. How could a demon be in Vrindavan? And the answer is that, what is the answer? In earthly Vrindavan, demons can actually be there. In the spiritual world, and not that Vrindavan is not the spiritual world, but in that Vrindavan, the concept of demons are there, but no demons can actually be there. But in this Bhumya Vrindavan, there are actually asuras who come. But they are there, despite what their mentality is, they are there to enhance the pastimes of Krishna. Their mentality isn't that to give Krishna pleasure, but that's actually their function, because Krishna also likes to fight. And in the spiritual world, there's no one to fight with. Because the essence of the spiritual world is that every entity, every soul, every person is simply focused on Krishna's pleasure. And the only kind of fighting that exists there, it's fighting free from envy. There's no envy there. In the fighting in this material world, there's a direct attempt to make someone else lower, to pull them down. But in the spiritual world, there is competition, but there's no envy there. It is just trying to please Krishna, and it is filled also with appreciation for others. Because the center, I'm going to have to be careful, because these topics are so exciting, I can easily become very tangential and never return to what we're supposed to talk about. But there's such exciting parts of Chaitanya Charitamrita, of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the teachings of Ramananda Roy, Ramananda Sabha, to explain what the essence of the spiritual world is like, and why Krishna stays there. And what is it in the spiritual world that gives Krishna pleasure? Do you know what it is? It is that the devotees love him so much that they're always pushing others forward. The ones who they think can give Krishna the most pleasure, they push those devotees forward. They don't try to stand, here I am, Krishna. Aren't I wonderful? No. They're always trying to make arrangements for Sri Radha and Krishna to get together. This is what is the essence of the spiritual world, and it is Krishna. It is Krishna Tushta. That is what gives Krishna pleasure. And there's another half of it too. Srimati Radharani, she is always trying to make different arrangements for others to get to Krishna. Visuddha Premi Kore Rasa Pushta, or Krishna Tushta. It gives Krishna so much pleasure to see this dealings between those who love him. They love him so much, they're only concerned with what pleases him. This is what makes the spiritual world. They're not concerned with pushing themselves forward. And then Srimati Radharani herself pushes them forward. And when Krishna sees this, it brings so much pleasure to him. And it is also explained that it is rasa pushta. It nourishes the actual relishing of the devotees. There's no envy there. But Aghasura was envious, as his name implies. He was the sinful demon. And he tried to swallow up all the boys. He tried to, but his intention was to swallow Krishna even. Was that a mobile phone? No, it couldn't be. Everyone, of course, had turned off their mobile phones before they came in. So, that Aghasura pastime is so amazing because Krishna even was amazed by it. Did you know that? Did you know that? That Krishna was amazed by that pastime. Because just imagine being sarvagya. What does sarvagya mean? All-knowing. That means you know everything that's going to happen all the time. It's like having to see the same movie again and again and again and again. Even though it might be a good movie, it might get a little boring if you already knew what was going to happen continuously. So this is a problem because Krishna is sarvagya. He knows everything. He knows past, present, and future. So does that mean that there is no surprise in his life? No, Krishna also has surprise. And this Aghasura pastime surprised him. Because he saw the cowherd boys walking into the mouth of Aghasura, what would have been to their death. Now, is it possible for Krishna to have wanted that to happen? No, because he loved them. How could you allow someone you love to go into a painful and difficult circumstance? If you can avoid it in any way, you would definitely do it. So Krishna, being the all-powerful Supreme Lord, he tried to stop the boys. But he couldn't. Because the boys wanted to be saved by Krishna. And so there was a difference in the desire between the boys and the all-powerful Supreme Personality of Godhead. And who controls Braja? It is Krishna's internal energy, and Krishna gives the freedom to his Yogamaya to act in such a way independently, so he doesn't know what's going to happen in that sense, so therefore he can be surprised and amazed. So Yogamaya in Vrindavan is independent, and you could say that Yogamaya is the greatest power in Vrindavan. But you could say it, but you wouldn't be right. Because Yogamaya didn't side with Krishna's point of view and Krishna's desire. Yogamaya sided with the devotee's desire. So the devotee's desire was to have a wonderful exchange with Krishna. And it was so powerful in their prem, their love for Krishna, that Yogamaya took the side of the devotees and overruled Krishna's desire. So what is all-powerful? What leads in Vrindavan? And this is the speciality of Vrindavan. And it makes it so sweet that the devotees' love for Krishna is what dictates everything. It is so when one walks into Vrindavan, that sweetness of the atmosphere is unavoidable, practically speaking. So Krishna was amazed that the cowherd boys were walking into the mouth of Aghasura against his desire. And he didn't react as in a philosophical way at all. And he didn't try to calculate how is this possible, and he just sit there, wow, this is really amazing. Wow, this is great. Wow, look at this. No, rather, because he is controlled by the love of the devotees, by Yoga Maya, he immediately had to go and save them. And he did. And he killed Aghasura. Matesh, you're late. You're late, but you're here. Thank you. So, Aghasura was killed. The boys came out of the mouth of Aghasura, and then Krishna came out. So Aghasura was killed, the boys came out, and Krishna came out. So when Aghasura killed means he died, which means, how do we generally say he died? What is the devotee code word for saying that?
Left his body.
He left his body, exactly. So Aghasura left his body behind, his Aghasura body behind. And who was the he that left his body? He was a soul who had been purified by the association with Krishna, because Krishna had entered his body. So he was purified, and the soul came out, and in the presence of everyone, when Krishna came out, the boys came out, Aghasura left his body, the boys also left his body, and then Krishna left his body, and then the soul entered within Krishna in the presence of everyone, including the devatas, including Brahma. And there was Krishna, a little boy, perhaps 4 years old, and an effulgent soul had entered his body. And he went back to playing with his cowherd boy friends in Vrindavan. And Brahma, no, we wouldn't say he was thunderstruck, because Indra was thunderstruck at the Govardhan Leela. So his foreheads were, excuse me, not his forehead, yeah, foreheads. You also have forehead, yes? Good, but you're not Brahma, correct? Okay. So he was wondering, could he really be my master? Little Krishna, beautiful cowherd boy. So then he observed. And what did he observe? He observed Krishna going with his cowherd boy friends to the bank of the river Yamuna, because in those days there were no ATMs, so they had to go to the bank. Sorry, it's late at night for everyone, okay? Corny jokes, okay. So I'll try my best to stop. So they went, Krishna and Balaram found a beautiful place not Balaram, but the cowherd boys and Krishna found a beautiful place by the bank of the Yamuna that was so sweet, with the Yamuna flowing and the birds just chirping, and it was cool, and there was green grass everywhere for the calves. So the calves were there, and the boys, at that time, Krishna told them, now it is time for us to have a picnic. Because this was the plan from the very beginning of the 12th chapter, that they went on a day for having a picnic. And the boys and Krishna started playing, and they all unwrapped the food that their mothers had sent them, and they were sometimes they would taste it and think, oh, this food, my mother has cooked the best food. It tastes so good. Krishna, you taste this. You'll see that it's the best. And Krishna was sitting in the midst of them, and they were sharing food like this, and they would even bite it and then offer it to Krishna, and then they would take, and Krishna would give them food, and they were stealing sometimes each other's lunch baskets, and sometimes they would take the food and put it in the midst of some ants, fire ants, and when the one boy wasn't looking, and the boy would start to cry, and they would all laugh, and they were playing and playing and playing. And Brahma saw that they were eating the food, and then putting, Krishna, you taste this, and putting it in Krishna's mouth. And the words used that Krishna is Jagyabhuk. He is the one who enjoys the results, the food offered in Vedic sacrifices, which are performed with the utmost propriety and cleanliness and everything. And no one would ever, in a sacrifice, first eat the food or and then offer it to the deities or something like that. No one would ever do something as horrendous as that. So Brahma thought, what is going on here? It doesn't really seem like it couldn't be. But maybe it is. I saw that. So he decided to test Krishna, because he himself was the powerful creator of the universe, practically speaking, although it's the secondary creator. Krishna is the primary creator. We could say that the Krishna creates, and this is called in the second canto, Sarga, Attara Sarga, Visharga Cha. That the Visharga is the secondary creation. Krishna creates everything, like all the ingredients of the universe, and Brahma puts them together and constructs the rest of the universe. So Brahma is so powerful, the most pious living entity in the universe. So he decided to test Krishna and see how he stands up to my power. So we all know what happened. He took away the calves, first of all, and then when Krishna went looking for the calves, he took away the boys, the cowherd boys, and he put them to sleep somewhere, just to see what Krishna would do. He wanted to see if Krishna would become confused by what happened, or perhaps Krishna would do something miraculous and wonderful. Or maybe Krishna would come and ask him, oh Brahma, I know you've done this, please return my boys. I'm praying to you for this. He wanted to see how Krishna would react to that, testing Krishna, or poking him to some degree. And Krishna went looking for the boys and looking for the calves, and he understood that Brahma had taken them. Now, one question comes up that Srila Prabhupada answers in his purport, and he gives the example of Sita Devi and Ravana taking Sita Devi. Could Ravana actually grab Sita Devi and take her away? No. So there was a shadow of Sita Devi that he took. We could say a Maya Sita Devi. So this is explained by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from one of the Puranas. So in the same way, Brahma could not actually take the cowherd boys. So he took a reflection of the cowherd boys and put him in the cave. And then Krishna was thinking, how am I going to react to this? And he expanded himself into different cowherd boys and calves. And each of these cowherd boys and calves had a particular personality exactly like the original. And they carried sticks and buffalo horns and looked just like the original cowherd boys. And the calves too. Animals also are individuals. They are individuals. So, exactly duplicating. But it was Krishna. So how many sets are there so far? How many so far are there?
3.
Yeah, there's 3 there. There's the ones that Brahma took, and there's the ones that Krishna expanded, and that leaves the originals. So, after a moment of his own time, Brahma came back to see what had happened, how Krishna was going to react to his using his potency, his mystic powers on Krishna. And he saw that everything, and that was after a year had passed, he came back. He thought he was going to come back in a moment, and he came back in a year. I mean, he hasn't, that was his time, but people from Bombay have no excuse. Abi Aiga. He came back in a year, and he was shocked. So he went to the place where he had put the boys, because he thought maybe Krishna released them. So he went to the place where he had put the boys, and the boys were still there. And he quickly went to the place where, because he thought, I saw them over here, and maybe they're moving them quickly back between the 2 places. So he went to this place, and they were still there, and he went there, and they were still there. And he concluded that somehow there are 2 sets of boys and calves. And then, as he was quite bewildered by that, as he was looking at the boys and the calves, then he saw them change before his eyes. There were countless boys, practically speaking, and countless calves. The number used in the Bhagavatam is asankhya, which can mean uncountable number, because sankhya means counting. Uncountable number of boys, an uncountable number of calves had expanded from this little cowherd boy. And each of those boys and calves assumed a Vishnu form. And Brahma was watching this. And he saw that every entity in the universe was worshiping these Vishnu forms. And they were covered from the tips of their toes to the top of their head with tulsi leaves. And all the different elements were worshiping these Vishnu forms. And Swabhava, Karma, Kala, all our nature, the energies that make people's natures and time and all karma and the Mahatattva, and everything was worshiping these Vishnu forms, 4 arms. And each of them, he understood, had unlimited power. So this, if you contemplate it, your mind will spin. That unlimited unlimiteds, there were unlimited number of unlimited entities, Vishnu forms, And each of those had unlimited power, and they all had come from Krishna, the cowherd boy who was standing there. And when Brahma was confronted with a glimpse of the potency of this cowherd boy, of Krishna, he became stunned, shocked, full of wonder. He could not move. He fell to the ground. And then Krishna withdrew this vision, and there was cowherd boys and calves there. And when Brahma opened his eyes, he saw Vrindavan, which was so beautiful, full of calves and cowherd boys and the river Yamuna and trees and the chirping of birds. And he saw Krishna. And he understood that he had made a great mistake. He had challenged the all-powerful Supreme Personality of Godhead, who had so much power, although he himself was so powerful, and for us incalculably powerful. But when he was confronted with Krishna's power, all he could do was very, very humbly offer some prayers. And those prayers, there are 40 of them, are wonderful. And they teach us many things, of course. And the first thing they're going to teach us, first we'll hear. So that took place. What chapter? What we just spoke about? The killing of Aghasura was in which chapter of the 10th canto? 12th. And the taking of the calves and boys, the 13th chapter of the 10th canto. And Brahma's prayers, naturally, are in the 14th chapter of the 10th canto, and right in the very beginning. And very interestingly enough, Srila Prabhupada, he ended his translation of the Srimad Bhagavatam on the 13th chapter. And he didn't, except in the Krishna book, in the Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead book, he didn't translate or write his Bhaktivedanta purports on that. But yet, his disciples have translated, his followers, humble servants, as they refer to themselves. And we will read. Now, also I was trying to think of how I should present this, because these prayers, when the most intelligent person speaks and presents his prayers, they're going to be, they're very, very, they have very deep meaning. So I've at different times, I've gone through these in classes in 2 days, and I've gone through them one verse a day at different times. So I was wondering what we should do this time, and I couldn't resist to want to refer to some of the commentaries of the acharyas directly. So we're going to not do it in 2 days perhaps, and we'll go along as quickly as we can, so to speak. But it's so the meanings are very, very deep, but not only very deep, they're very, very, very sweet. And not only are they deep and sweet, but they are very relevant. Is there a Hindi word for relevant? Or what is relevant? How do you say relevant? relevant, I guess. If it, huh? I don't know. Is that good enough? It's very important for our own spiritual life. There's some, if you want to make advancement in spiritual life, advancement means to move closer to Krishna, to move closer to the winning the ice challenge and having the heart melt and awakening the true nature of each and every one of us in relationship to Krishna. Prema pamarto mahan. There's such important instructions on how to do this, especially in the opening verses of Brahma's prayers. So let us hear what Lord Brahma says. And also, some kind devotees have helped me. 40 verses in Brahma's prayers. So one, if you can keep one of your eyes on here and one on me, you probably won't survive. But go back and forth. You can, don't try to multitask. Just get your processors working quickly. So there are 40 verses in this, 40 prayers by Lord Brahma, and we'll right now read the, we'll go over, perhaps we'll even finish it. The first 8, which are very, very special. Let's see. I think we've given this a section, a title. Let's see if this works. Yeah, no, it didn't. We're going to go backwards. It's called Knowing the Unknowable. This is the name I've given to these first 8 verses. Knowing the unknowable. Now, is it possible to know the unknowable? By definition, if something is unknowable, you cannot know it. But yet, this is what Brahma is going to instruct us how to do, to know the unknowable. When the people in this world who think that they won't comment whether God is existing or not, because they say, by definition, He's infinite. So I cannot, if there is a God, they say, He must be infinite. And how could I know Him if He's infinite? So I don't know if He's there or not there. I won't comment whether He's there or not there, because they say He's unknowable. And what are those people called? What's the word for people like that? They're not atheists, but they are. No one's brave enough to say it loudly. What are they called? Mayavadis. Yes, they're Mayavadis, but that's not what they're called. What are they called? What's the English word for people who won't say, they don't want to take a stand? He may exist, He may not exist, I don't know. Not atheists, agnostics. That's the word. Agnostic. I can't really say, but they're covered atheists, and Mayavadis also. We'll also say they're Mayavadis. Lump them in. But actually, the unknowable, we can know Him. It is possible to know the unknowable, but there is a different process, and Brahma is going to reveal that process. But first, he's not going to start with that. He's going to start with, so please repeat after me. Sri Brahma Uvacha. So Lord Brahma is speaking here. No midyate abra vapushe tadidambaraya. No vidyate abra vapushe tadidambaraya. Gunjavatangsa paripichala mukaya. Vanyasraje kavalavetra vashana venu. Lakshma Shri Mridupate Pasupangajaya. In the Bhagavatam, there are several verses where exalted personalities directly describe the beauty of Krishna, and this is one of the most famous. So Brahma, at this point, please understand, try to understand his mind, that he's just seen the power of Krishna, or not seen the power of Krishna. He's just gotten a glimpse of unlimited entities, Vishnu forms, who each have unlimited power emanating from this little beautiful cowherd boy who's standing right in front of him. And the first thing he's going to do is describe what he sees. And that's what this verse does. Nomidya. So, Nama, Idya. Idya means, O most worshipable one. So, although Krishna is in the form, he's a cowherd boy, but yet Brahma's conclusion is that he's all worshipable. He is the supreme object of worship, even though he's in this most beautiful little boy, calf-herd boy's form. Abra Vapushe Tadidambaraya, whose the complexion of his skin is like a rain cloud, a monsoon water-filled rain cloud. And Tadidambaraya, Tadit, does anyone know what Tadit means? Lightning. And the color of his cloth is like lightning. This is what he's seeing as he looks at Krishna. And Gunja Avatangse Paripiksha Lasan Mukaya. Lasan Mukaya means his face is resplendent. It's effulgent and beautifully attractive. And he's wearing earrings, Gunja Avatangse, out of Gunja Mala, some earrings out of Gunja, which are very famous in Vrindavan. Raise your hand if you've never seen a Gunja berry. Oh my God. You've never seen a Gunja berry? Are there any deity remnants that out of Gunja berries? Do we have any?
Yes.
Yes.
Giriraj Gunja.
They're not remnants yet. Okay. Will he wear them tomorrow?
He wears them every day.
Okay. Now all of you who don't know what Gunja berries are, you should look at Giriraj tomorrow. And you will see these this big little like berries that are reddish and black. And sometimes they are white, but most likely they're reddish and black. And a necklace out of those, they are very dear to Krishna. Gunja berries. You'll go tomorrow and see them. You'll see Giriraj tomorrow and look specifically for the Gunja berries, because they are dear to Krishna. So Krishna was wearing earrings made out of Gunja berries. And atop his head, Paripicha, there was a peacock feather. So he was dressed with cloth was like lightning with peacock feather and Gunja berry earrings. And Vanya Srijay, and he was wearing a garland of Vanamala, of the forest flowers. And his mother had dressed him in very fine jewels and everything. But the nature of Krishna is that he loves most the ornaments that come from the Vrindavan forest. So he was wearing a garland that reached almost to his feet of forest flowers. And so he was wearing that, and he looked so beautiful and little. And in his hand, kavala, he had some rice mixed with yogurt in his left hand. And he had a stick used for cow herding, although Krishna would never hit the calves with the stick, but sometimes you wave it and the boys would like to carry it. So he had a stick and Vishana, a buffalo horn, and Venu. What does Venu mean? He had his flute. Venu specifically is the small flute, about 6 inches. And this was about the time when Krishna was learning the flute. A little after that, he was already so expert in melodies that he amazed everyone in Vrindavan. How has this little boy become so expert in playing the flute? And when Krishna would play the flute, and this will be described later, when he's older, of course, but every living entity in Vrindavan, the melodies of his playing, the rag and raginis, the melody of his playing was so captivating that the birds would become stunned. And the calves, this is later described, the calves, while they were drinking milk from their mothers, when Krishna would play his flute, they'd go. And the milk would just drip from their mouths. They were so stunned. Krishna's flute playing is... And the cows themselves, their ears would stand up as if they were... You've seen that with cows and with horses, you know, when there's some sound that they're interested in, their ears stand up like this. And they were, our acharyas described, they became like cups. And through their ears, they were drinking the sweet sound. They're trying to capture the sweet sound of Krishna's flute. So Krishna had his flute tucked in between in his waist, and he had the buffalo horn. Sometimes in Vrindavan you see Balaram with that, and Krishna and Balaram, they have on a string the buffalo horn, and the stick tucked in there beneath his arm like that. And he was just standing there looking at Brahma as Brahma prayed. So, and he was also called Pashupanga Jaya. Pashupanga Jaya means the son of Nanda Maharaj, the one who protects the cows, the protector of the cows. So Lord Brahma said, this is the BBT translation, "My dear Lord, you are the only worshipable Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Namidyate, and therefore I offer my humble obeisances and prayers just to please you. O son of the king of cowherds, Pashupanga Jaya, your transcendental body is dark blue, like a new cloud. Your garment is brilliant like lightning. And the beauty of your face, Lasan, resplendent Mukhaya, is enhanced, it's increased by your gunji earrings and the peacock feather on your head, and wearing garlands of various forest flowers and leaves, and equipped with a herding stick, a buffalo horn, and a flute. You stand beautifully with a morsel, that's the kavala, of food in your hand. So Brahma was just looking at Krishna, and the first thing he did was describe the beautiful form that he was seeing, but that beautiful form was of a cowherd boy, and not only a youthful cowherd boy, but a young cowherd boy. And Brahma is speaking to him, no midyate, oh, you are the worshipable Lord. So he was afraid that Krishna would respond to his prayers by saying, oh, you are Brahma, the all-great. Brahma means the greatest, and I am just a cowherd boy. And you are full of knowledge, and I'm just a village boy, and I've never even been to school. And you are saying that you're going to worship me, and you have such power of illusion. And myself, I'm in illusion. And I'm just wandering around searching for my boys and calves that are missing. So I don't know why you're worshiping me. So Brahma feared that Krishna would respond to them, and therefore he offered a next verse. My dear Lord, neither I nor anyone else can estimate the potency of this transcendental body of yours, which has shown such mercy to me, and which appears just to fulfill the desires of your pure devotees. Even though you are in this beautifully, inconceivably beautiful form of a cowherd boy, yet you are inconceivably powerful, and this is why I'm worshiping you. And, oh Lord, your body, even though I've described it in this way, and this is just what I'm seeing, it is transcendental. It is completely extraordinary. It is not composed of the material elements. I know this. It's unlimitedly powerful. I've seen countless Vishnu forms, each of them possessing unlimited powers, come out of your body and then re-enter into your body. And therefore I'm worshiping you, even though you're in this most cute and wonderfully beautiful, resplendent form of a cowherd boy. And you have shown me so much mercy. What is Brahma considering the great mercy that Krishna has shown him? He's shown him how powerful, unlimitedly powerful he is. But more than that, he's shown him this sweet form of Krishna in Vrindavan, who is all attractive, who has appeared to show mercy and fulfill the desires of his pure devotees. So our acharyas have explained that he comes to fulfill the desires of his devotees. He comes, this is described in the first chapter of the 10th canto, how Brahma had prayed for him to come with all the devatas. They went to the ocean of milk. So to fulfill the desire of Brahma, he had come. But also, he had come and enact the different pastimes with the greatest of devotees, the residents of Vrindavan. But also, he's come to perform these pastimes because the devotees, we could say, as Brahma says, I am just an ordinary devotee. Of course, there is no such thing of an ordinary devotee, and you know this, especially if you're a manager. That was a joke. No, the devotees are extraordinary. But really, it's actually a fact that it's so rare in this world that someone is serious about developing their love for Krishna, it is extraordinary. And of course, because we deal with the devotees every day, we tend to see the ordinary parts. But actually, it is extraordinary that someone in the material world is making a sincere attempt, struggling against the modes of material nature, struggling and trying to develop love for Krishna. It is the most rare thing, in fact, and worthy of so much respect and appreciation. That's how Krishna sees. There's one comment in later on by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in one of the later chapters of the 10th canto, where he says that my devotees are looking at me or meditating upon me, but because there's the exalted, the most exalted devotees that are meditating on Krishna, and Krishna is fully manifesting for them. His unlimited beauty is manifesting in their heart. His pastimes, practically speaking, are manifesting in their heart. This is the most exalted devotees, because Krishna and thinking of Krishna are exactly the same. It is Krishna, or where they're chanting, Krishna fully manifests to them as they chant. Abhina tvam namanamano. But not everyone is on that level. So what happens, or what is the effect of meditating or thinking about the form of Krishna when one isn't on the level? One is not actually seeing fully Krishna, because that takes a full transcendental consciousness, and Krishna reciprocates with how much love we have. So what about the poor neophytes, beginners like myself, when I'm thinking of Krishna or looking at Krishna? Is it just my mind that I'm seeing? And to some degree, it is. But Krishna doesn't see it like that. Because what our eyes are seeing is reacting with our material minds. But Krishna sees, oh, my devotee is meditating on me, or, oh, my devotee is chanting my name. He's calling out to me. So Krishna reciprocates. He appreciates even the beginner's attempt. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains. Because that attempt, the sincere attempt, even if it's from a childish stage, is appreciated by Krishna so much. Just like when there's a young child and they're beginning to speak for the first time and they're saying words, Baba, Mama, going out, something, and their grammar isn't right, their pronunciation isn't right, but the parents see the attempt, oh, my child is speaking, and they become so appreciative and encouraging. So similarly, Krishna appreciates these attempts to think about him, to hear about him, to chant his names. And he thinks, oh, perhaps like the parent thinks of the child's attempt. So it does not go on in vain, and Krishna appreciates it so much. So we should always continue. So when Krishna, he performs his pastimes, so one of the ways he's trying to fulfill the desires of the devotees is to give them something to hear about, to chant about, to fill their consciousness with. And this will come up later, that this is the essence of the process. Shuddhagatam Tanavan Manobir. That if we can just do this part of the process, be present to hear about Krishna when Krishna is being glorified and described in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, if we can just hear about Krishna, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, then yad yad diyatad urugaya vibhavayanti tantan pranayeshi sadhanugrahaya, Krishna enters the heart through that process. Vidyantasto yabhadrani vidunoti saritsatam. That Krishna himself, if we become Srinvata Swakatam Krishna, Punya, it is the topmost piety, this hearing about Krishna. And the ice and rock-like hearts begin to melt, and some attraction begins. Or sometimes it may come in even a more subtle form, that maybe it's really true. Doubting our own mind's sense of reality. That's also a beginning. So this hearing process is the essence. My dear Lord, neither I nor anyone else can estimate the potency of this transcendental body of yours. You are in this form of a cowherd boy, but yet it is unlimitedly powerful, unlimitedly potent, and unlimitedly attractive. But the fact that he's a cowherd boy and herding the cows with the stick and the buffalo horn and the flute and the food and the peacock feather atop his head and wearing the flower garland, this does not in any way inhibit him from being unlimitedly powerful. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this type of interaction with his devotees is the greatest pleasure for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's tasting the sweetness continuously of their love in Vrindavan. And it's so attractive that Chaitanya and Nitai, Mahaprabhu came just to relish this, to taste this himself. Krishna came wanting to taste the sweetness of the exchange and to distribute. So he's explaining his own position. He's saying, he's looking at Krishna and saying, I can't understand your transcendental body and the amount of potency it has. Although my mind is completely withdrawn from material affairs, I cannot understand your personal form. Because the premise there is that if the mind or the consciousness is involved with material affairs, which means passion and ignorance, that disallows us. It doesn't allow us to actually understand reality in an accurate way. The more passionate and ignorant one is, the more one is attached to going external with our senses and our mind and looking outside for enjoyment to the objects of the senses, then by definition, the less satisfied we're going to feel inside if we're always looking outside for pleasure. means something is driving us, a lack inside. I'm not feeling happy inside, so I'm looking outside. So one whose senses and mind are withdrawn from all that external activity, and he's speaking somewhat from the point of view of the intellectualized jnana point of view, but I can't understand it, and I have nothing to do with the external sense objects of this world. Raga, dvesha, vyavastita. And I can't understand what to speak of others who are involved in matter and doing this and that. I can't understand your potency. And because I can't understand that, it's also true that I can't understand what you're experiencing when you walk through the land of Vrindavan without shoes, playing your flute and herding the calves and playing and wrestling with your friends. Because when we see others, we tend to project, just like the machine projects what's in the computer on the screen, we tend to project what we're thinking upon others. So Brahma's conclusion is that previously I was doing that. And previously I thought, how could he be the Supreme Lord when he's herding calves? Because it's only village people who do this. And he's wrestling with his friends. It's only children who do this. And he's carrying the rice mixed with fruit and yogurt in his left hand. It's only the most uncultured people who do that. So I actually have understood now that I have no ability to conceive of either your power or what your internal experience is. What is it what is the engine that drives you to herd the calves with your friends? It's not the same as what drives me to do my activities. So I'm taking a step back from thinking I understand you through my own mind. So I can't understand what you're experiencing by doing this. Because Krishna was standing in front of him with the stick, and his friends are nearby, and so effulgent and giving off such an incredible ecstasy. Like when we walk in the temple, if we're outside or in the city and doing this and that, and then we walk into the temple room, you're walking into a different universe, standing in front of Radha Ballava, Gauranitai, and Jagannath. It's a different universe, but it's in this universe, but it's a different universe. It's a different, like, how do you say it? Like a different atmosphere, a different vibration, a different existence than the usual. So Vrindavan, what Brahma walked into with the most subtle consciousness, was so far beyond his ability to understand. But yet, it was so attractive. This comes out later, very at the end of his prayers. He says, let me be born even as a blade of grass in Vrindavan, so that the resonance of Vrindavan may put the dust from their feet on my head. This is Brahma speaking, the most powerful He's feeling himself so insignificant when confronted with the spiritual reality, spiritual existence. And he also says, our acharyas explain, that not only am I incapable of understanding what you're experiencing or what you are composed of, I'm incapable of understanding your cowherd boys, friends, and the calves, because I've just seen them come out of your transcendental body and turn into Vishnu forms, and then go back into your body, and there they are. So his pride was going very quickly, or it had gone. So the question then arises, what Brahma is saying, that you are unknowable, but he's not really saying it is not possible to know you. What he is saying, it is impossible to know you by the processes that I use to know things. So this verse is going to describe, these words spoken by Brahma are very famous. These words were accepted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as defining bhakti and how the unknowable can be known, how the all-blissful can be perceived, experienced, and known. So this verse, how many of you know this verse already? Raise your hand if you know this verse. Okay, repeat after me. Jnane prasam udopasya namante eva. Jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiyavartam. Stene stita shrutigatim tanovan manobi. Ye priyaso jita jito pyasitas trilokyam. So jnane means the process of jnana. That means, we call it sometimes the ascending process, or the process of trying to understand through your own intelligence, or the process of trying to understand Krishna or reality or spiritual life by your own abilities. So that process, an ascending process of trying to understand the unlimited, inconceivably powerful absolute truth, Brahma concludes, prayasam udopasya, it should be rejected. The endeavor to understand the absolute truth through our own power should be rejected. So as he said, I cannot understand. But namanta eva jivanti sanmukharitam bhavatiyavartam. A different process has to be adopted. And this process is the process to understand, and not only understand the unknowable, but to conquer the unconquerable. That's jito, ajita. The ajita, the unconquerable, is conquered, jito, by this process. And the process is sanmukharitam bhavadiyavartam, hearing about Krishna, hearing Krishna Katha. And that doesn't only mean hearing the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, but hearing Bhagavad Gita, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam from the very beginning, hearing Chaitanya Charitamrita, nectar of devotion, Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu, Sri Ishopanishad. There are so many books that are about Krishna or spoken by Krishna and describe different aspects of Krishna. And this is the Bhavadiya Vartam. This is the path for understanding Krishna. Hearing about him. Yad yad diyatad urugaiva bhavayanti tan tan pranayeshe sad anugraha. That Krishna, by his anugraha, by his mercy, he will take up, actively be alive in your heart and just according to your desires through this process of hearing. And how should one go about this? Because again, Brahma is speaking very much from the basis is that he's the most intelligent person, and the process of jnana is to be given up, and that means the process of sukshma vairagya has to be given up too, the process of dry renunciation. Rather, stene stita, one should stay in one's place, and shuddhigatam, and hear about Krishna, and give respect to the process of hearing with one's tanu, van, manobir, with one's body, one's words, one's mind. And our acharyas described how to do this. With one's, to respect the process of hearing with one's words is to say, yes, this is nice. And to respect the process of hearing about Krishna with one's body is primarily to be there. You have to bring your body there. And that, even though it sounds so simple, after so many of you have been through a hard day of work or in the office or this service or that service, and still to respect the Krishna Katha by placing your body there, touching the ground with your body and sitting and trying to hear is not an easy thing, and it's very rare. So that's how to respect the Krishna Katha, with your body, with your ears. And with the words, yes, it's true. And with the mind, to accept Krishna's words as truth, that yes, he is the Supreme Lord. The acharyas give so many different meanings of this, and we won't go over them all right now. And this will be the last verse. We won't even finish this verse today. And then by this process, he who is unconquerable, ajita, is jito. He is conquered. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that this is so wonderful, so amazing, that the unconquerable Krishna is conquered just by hearing about him. In other words, he's pleased. He leans towards the devotee. He himself takes up the process of cleaning the heart of the devotee who is eager to hear him, about him. Vidyantisto yabhadrani. He removes the abhadrani, the inauspiciousness from the heart. So we'll just hear the actual translation. Those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, throw away the process of speculative knowledge, and with their body, words, and mind, words also means glorifying, repeating the katha, talking to others about what we read in the Bhagavatam, what we hear in the Bhagavatam classes, what we hear in the Bhagavad Gita classes, respecting it by talking about it and glorifying Krishna in that way. So throw away the process of speculative knowledge, and with their body, words, and mind, offer all respects to descriptions of your personality and activities. And jivanti, one of the meanings of jivanti is that they give their lives, they dedicate their lives to these narrations, hearing them, remembering them, speaking of them, distributing them. They give their life to that. That's giving their life to Krishna. Which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees, describing the Katha. They certainly, namanta eva, certainly they conquer your lordship, although you are otherwise unconquerable by anyone, even the greatest, Lord Brahma. You are otherwise unconquerable by anyone within the three worlds, Trilokyam. Very important instructions. Okay, we should stop here, and I have to thank you all for coming, because I know it isn't easy. It isn't easy. But you've come, so thank you. So we have a few more minutes. We'll end promptly at 9. Are there any questions or comments at this point? Yes.
Thank you so much, Pastor. I'm just wondering, at the beginning of your class, you were speaking about how in the spiritual world, everyone's so free of envy.
Completely free of envy.
The push.
That will come in the morning Bhagavatam class quite soon, by the way, when the 4 Kumaras go to Vaikuntha.
I'm wondering, in the material world, it seems like some devotees have more of that upfront personality. They like to seem to be like the front center, the front man. Is that an indication that they're perhaps not quite as advanced as these devotees?
It's quite as advanced as?
Well, I'm just wondering whether or not we should be more trying to push other devotees forwards.
Oh, I see.
Rather than trying to be the front man or trying to be the person that's like direct.
Yeah, the devotees, the acharyas actually comment on this. Even though they tend to be quiet and silent when it comes to glorification of Krishna, they are very upfront. But then the question comes, is what happens if Krishna wants you to do a particular service? And that service entails you being upfront. So that it's not humility to demand to be in the back, for example. But to say, I must be the one, that's not proper. But if one gets the indication or the order that one should do this particular service, then one should do it. Prabhupada once gave the example that once you've begun the dance, the example was a young lady on the stage who's very, very shy and wearing a veil or a sari above her, on her face, covering her face. So she's very shy. But once you begin the dance, there's no meaning to keeping the veil over your face. If you're going to dance, then dance. You have to do it properly. And if you've been asked by Krishna to take a forward position, then you have to do that. But it should be done from the position of being a servant. And I once heard, it was very interesting, there was one devotee from Brisbane. And he works, I don't know if he's still working in this company, but a very, very interesting company run by a non-devotee. And they're, even more than making a profit, their concept was to take care of the staff and their people. And he told me that when his wife was pregnant, she had a difficult pregnancy, and then for 1 year, they came and cooked for them. Not came, but they brought, though they're not vegetarians and whatever, but they cooked vegetarian food for them. They really tried for 1 year for 1 whole year to take care of them, because he was part of their group. So I thought, this is really exceptional. So I asked him, I knew this must come down from the top. So what are some of the characteristics of your boss? And he said, it was very much in the mood of this. He said, when something goes wrong, he takes the blame. When something goes right, he gives the credit to others. So it was quite striking how that type of a mood of service, being in a leadership position as a servant, is so appealing. And it's a principle that works on every level, and you can use it to make a profit for yourself even. But to use it to please Krishna and to do the work as a servant without the false ego as a master, to do the leadership position is glorious. It's the most glorious. And we saw that with Prabhupada himself. He was not shy about sitting on the Vyasasana and speaking completely authoritatively and calling this one this and that one that, and speaking the truth in that way. And he accepted the worship of his disciples. He accepted in Melbourne when he was picked up, he picked him up in a Rolls Royce, and the question was asked, why did you take a Rolls Royce? And his answer was, because that's all that they could bring. Something like that. There wasn't a gold car or something like that. Something like that. He would never use the stereotype position of humility to not represent the Lord, because that was his service, and he was completely surrendered to his service. He was completely surrendered to his service, but there wasn't false ego, and he was a servant only of his Guru Maharaj. And because he had that pure motive, that was the engine driving it, and therefore Krishna empowered him and gave him so much. And no matter how much Krishna gave him, he wanted more and more. He once said, and I have even seen this picture, and it was in where he grew up. I saw this picture. There was a picture of Ramakrishna, or some so-called sadhu that was criticized very much. And someone is offering him money. It's like a painting, and he's going like this. And Prabhupada said, you can make a picture of me. People are offering money, and I'm going like this. Because he saw it as Krishna's. Let it be bigger. Let it be bigger. Big vision. I don't know if I answered your question, but it was always from the position of service. And when in 1977, he was staying in Bhubaneswar, and even in Allahabad, during the Kumbh Melas, when he was ill in 1977, he would go out, and with the pumps, something he would bathe very early in the morning when it was so cold. I saw that in New Vrindavan also in 1968. It wasn't wasn't attached to the externals. He was very attached to the internal, the service, and very attached to the service. Okay. There's 2 minutes more of questions. Anyone have a 2-minute question? Do you have a question? No. Do you like to hear about Krishna? Do you like to hear about Krishna as a cowherd boy? Yes? Do you have any cows yourself? Would you like to have cows? You'd like them to stay in your room? Okay, you could. After, we'll tell your parents, maybe they could have some cows in your room. Would you like to have cows in your room? Not sure. They can be messy. Okay, any last question? And then we'll end. Yes?
I think there may not be time to discuss, but maybe next class, can you make this go a little back? But would it be possible to explain a little bit more? Would it be possible either in this class or next class to explain a little bit more how it was so bewildering to see unlimited forms of Krishna?
And each of the expansions of Krishna, each of the unlimited expansions of Krishna had unlimited power. Now think about that. Say if you have something, whatever it is, whatever your possessions, and you give it away, or you use it up, then you have less. But Krishna, he not only gave away a lot, what expanded from him was an infinite number of entities, Vishnu forms, and each of those had unlimited power individually. Now, can you conceive of that? So the source has to be greater than the emanations. That which comes from, you can't give away more than you have. So the source has to be greater than what emanates from him. So Brahma, being very intelligent, understood that if unlimiteds come from this little cowherd boy, what else is inside of him? And he wasn't even tired. And there was no telling how much more could have come, and how much more energy, and how much more this, and how much more that. And yet, there he was, arm wrestling with the cowherd boys, and sometimes losing, and sometimes when people would steal his lunch basket, he would cry until they would give it back to him. They would tease him. And they were taking food from their mouth and putting it in his mouth. And yet, there was no telling, there was no way of estimating how much potency, power was within him, what he was. Okay? Think about it, and you'll stay up all night. What you'll do is conclude it's impossible to understand how powerful the unlimitedly powerful is. If unlimitedly powerful Krishna can produce unlimited other entities that are unlimitedly powerful, now we're beginning to understand what it means to be the Param Satyam, the absolute truth. Just think about that. Achintya Shakti. There's no meaning to understanding what the absolute truth is unless you accept it as inconceivable potency. Thank you very much. Please think about Krishna tonight and chant Krishna's names and be happy. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sisi Gaunachai ki, Srila Prabhupada Bhaktivinoda ki.